Howdy everyone, it's me once again, the one and only Killer Dan, and today I'm going to be reviewing a film I've already spoken about before, so I just figured I would do another special edition of a short movie. It's definitely one of the most cherished films of all time. If anything, it's still pretty popular even up to this very day. Yes, I'm talking about a princess movie, Whoop-de-doo. So yeah, it's gonna be the special edition for the original Cinderella. It's not an anniversary edition right here, folks. So yeah, I'll review that version, of course, because I figured why not. I did review one of these versions in the past, so I guess it wouldn't hurt to talk about it. But of course, I'm gonna rate it for the stuff it contains and whatnot, the overall story, like I would normally would, so on and so forth. So stuff like that I want to talk about, obviously. So I just thought that this would be a good thing to talk about. So yeah, here we go. I guess why not? And yeah, that's the thing, folks. And you can actually find this online if you want to, of course. Find it yourself, even though it's set for a limited release or whatever. But that's the thing when it comes to Disney special editions. They pretty much say that for like almost every single special edition. Every single one is like a limited release before they put it in the vault or whatever. But in some ways, that's just a marketing scheme. They try to have people buy that as fast as humanly possible, which I guess I kind of understand because it's a product. Whether people want to accept it or not, these types of movies are products. That doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing per se, really, of course. But yeah, I guess it's a marketing scheme for these movies to be marketed. And they know there's a fan base when it comes to princess movies. And like I said a moment ago, Cinderella is definitely one of the more popular princess movies. She's still very popular to the very day. Even though the original film was released in 19 original film was released in 1950 and it's almost 2021. So yeah, the film definitely left a mark, and of course in a good way, obviously. If you want to get a copy of Yom, it's actually relatively cheap right now. It's actually up, pretty cheap depending on where you go. And like I suggest before, folks, always get new. Never buy used movies or used games online because, yeah, every person I did that before, and let's just say it was not a pleasant experience. Had to, send it back, speak to the Amazon people. Yeah, it was an experience. It was definitely an experience. So yeah, let's don't make the same mistake like we did. No, no. But anyway, like I said, just make sure if you have an eBay account, Amazon or whatever, and if you don't have one of those, just make one. And by the way, folks, if you are going to get one, make sure you get a gift card. Don't actually use your ATM or whatever whatever bank card you have. Don't actually use it. And my point is, okay, it's like a little safety precaution, I guess, to minimize the risk of someone getting hacked into your personal information. And if it does happen, at least it's just the money that's being taken from the gift card and nothing else. Just just throw that out there. Just throw that out there. Well, anyway, that aside, when the film initially it was released, of course, the film was a smash hit. It was a gamble, sure, but yeah, they were starting to build upon the whole Disney Princess franchise. And like I said before, it was definitely something that could be cherished for generations. And a lot of people, a lot of women out there did cross dress. Okay, some men anyway. I'm not going to pass judgment here. Some men actually did this too, not just the women. Play as this character like a little game or whatever. And people who are into foreplay, which might lead to something else. And of course, there's nothing wrong with that either. I know the whole princess thing might have actually taken it a more progressive type of way nowadays, and that also does not have to be a bad thing either, of course. So yeah, the princess genre of Disney is still like a popular thing to this very day. So they're still making quite a bit of these movies, so I can see why they would, because it's popular for one, and definitely had left an impact on culture one way or another. And again, that's perfectly fine. Also, it's something like a lot of people seem to enjoy. Most of these films that tend to make a lot of money anyway. So again, on a business perspective, it does make sense to release these type of movies in theaters and also make special editions of so unpopular characters from the past. So yeah, again, from that point of view, it does make sense when you think about it. So of course, people are going to want to watch it and probably collect as many editions as a film of this as you can, even though you already have a copy or two of other editions. But yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I'm guilty of that. Buying more than one edition of a certain Disney film, yeah, I've done that. Because one of my favorite films from Disney is definitely Alice in Wonderland. I got the Blu-ray version like I just showed here, folks. And then they got the Chinese dubbed version as well. So yeah, this was definitely a rarity, keeping that. And then I got this little collection of animated. Okay, it's not really animated. They're just little shorts that Disney had made. There's like three of them there. So yeah, buying multiple different versions of a movie or what have you. Yeah, a lot of people are guilty of doing that kind of a thing, and there's no shame in that. No, of course, there's absolutely no shame in that kind of a thing. I mean, for crying out loud, Everest and I have played a lot of these old Nintendo games earlier, folks. So yeah, that's something. There's nothing wrong with trying to collect with stolen stuff and whatnot. So that's pretty cool. Oh yeah. So yeah, the film must have done something right, especially considering the fact that it's extremely old. The original Disney's version of Cinderella is this American animated musical fantasy that was produced by Walt Disney himself. It's based upon the fairy tale of the same name. I mean, okay, based upon, I should use that loosely, but still, it has some of the basic elements there. Anyway, it is the 20th animated feature produced by the company at that time. So, yeah, of course, there's going to be a lot of singing, obviously, and this film became known for its singing, obviously. During the mid to late 40s, the Walt Disney Productions had suffered financially after losing connections to the European film markets due to the outbreak of World War II. So during the time, they basically had to endure the box office bombs, like from the original Fantasia, Pinocchio, and of course even the original Bambi. All of which were later were re-released, but became box office success at the time. And then, of course, it had several re-releases doing theaters and home video. So that's account for something, of course. So let's just say that. Point being, let's just say that because of the certain conflict that was going on, due to this, the studio was over $4 million in debt and was on the verge on bankruptcy at the time. So Walt Disney and his animators returned to the filmmaking production in 1948. After after producing a string of packaged films with the idea of adapting the Cinderella film into an animated feature. So let's just say that after 2 years in production, Cinderella was finally released, of course, in February 15th of 1950. The film company that helped to release the film, and it was this other company, this one here, folks, which was around for quite some time. Yeah, it's an American company, film production kind of a thing, and it does help to release other films as well. In its original incarnation, it was one of the big five studios of Hollywood's golden age. The business, had its own model, and it was a part of this theater chain, of course. So it was definitely something that they could have actually be proud of, and they helped Disney to release the original Cinderella film. So that's definitely a little interesting backstory there. You can say it's a gamble, and the risk paid off because the original Cinderella film pretty much became another critical and commercial success. It became one of the greatest hits that they made ever since Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, which was released in 1937, and Double, which was released a few years later in 1941. So yeah, this definitely helped the company to go back on its feet, so to speak. So yeah, it definitely paid off in a lot of ways. The film did receive 3 Academy Awards, of course, for Best Music and Best Original Music as well. So that's definitely something, of course. It definitely left an impact on a lot of people, obviously. So that's definitely a good thing. The castle featured in the film has become an icon of the Walt Disney Company, pretty much serving as the basis for the production logo of Walt Disney Pictures, and with real life constructions of the castle being found at Magic Kingdom Park at Walt Disney World, as well as the Tokyo Disneyland. In 2018, the film was selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry and by the Library of Congress as being something as important as cultural, historical, and so forth and such. So that's definitely something there, folks. It made a lot of impact in a lot of ways. So that's definitely a good thing there. So yeah, it's definitely something has been in the mindset of a lot of people for many generations. So stuff like this is why I wanted to make a video for this specific version, of course. And would I ever review any other versions of this film? I don't know. Let's see if I feel like it, I guess. But yeah. Right. Blah 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 blah. As always, I still have to top of the plot, folks. So let's begin, shall we? So here we go. So, giving the rundown of the story, he's going to focus on Cinderella, of course, because she's a title character here, obviously. So, what's going on is that, for those who have not seen this film for whatever reason, is that Cinderella had to live with her stepmother and the step siblings. Yeah, the two other women. And yeah, she does get mistreated quite a bit, unfortunately. She's supposed to stay in this house and obey every single word that the stepmother says. As if she's like some sort of a dictator, whatever she says goes. She's the wicked woman or whatever. But the thing is that, thankfully, the character of Cinderella does have some companions, of course. In typical Disney tradition, when it comes to the princess movies, of course, she does have these animals. They sing, of course. And in this movie, there's these mice as well, whom know her quite well. And of course, there's this cat that's evil or whatever. His name is Lucifer. Yeah, I see what you did. I see what you did there, movie. But anyway, point being is that yeah, she even gets mistreated by her cat. I mean, okay, technically it's not hers, but still, the cat doesn't like her either, really. So basically, she's living in misery. And the thing is that she does remain kind anyway, nonetheless. She wants to make sure that she actually kind of thrive in the world, despite the fact there's all these odds against her. And she just wants to make sure that she can actually live in peace, even though her environment isn't exactly all that cheery for her. It's not that cheerful, it's not that peachy at all. But of course, she she definitely wants to make sure that she can see herself making it through. In other words, she's basically a servant. I mean, they're not exactly blood related, but the whole remarriage and whatnot. She's definitely left with these people who pretty much make her life a total misery because the control freaks, I guess. At least the stepmother is a very uh, uh she's trying to abuse her a power of authority, I guess you can say. Really trying to mistreat Cinderella because she wants to basically rule the house with an iron fist, pretty much. And that's what's going on here, unfortunately, for the character. But of course, she wants to see the fact that there's brighter days, there could be a greater future, obviously, and wants to show that this kind of a thing can't put her down. But of course, it's not that exactly easy. And yes, eventually we get to see that. Eventually, we get the sequence where she does get that famous dress, of course. Eventually, and of course, you're trying to link all that up to the fact that the whole thing with Prince Charming and whatnot. And of course, stuff like this It'll be like the bridal moments in her life because her entire life it feels like she's been abused by those closest to her. So yeah, that's unfortunate. It does happen with the character and whatnot. And also, if anybody's wondering, if anybody's watching this, you can actually watch this film on Disney Plus. If anybody's thinking about getting that, and this is your favorite movie, and you haven't seen it in a while, and for whatever reason you don't have any physical copies, well, there's your chance. You can actually see it there as many times as you want. I mean, granted, you're not gonna see any of the extras from this version, but hey, whatever, I guess. So, but anyway, you can't get whatever you want, I guess, whatever. So anyway, of course, they're trying to come up with a narrative where you can actually cheer for somebody because this individual was mistreated by these people who you could argue that maybe don't deserve her kindness. And I mean, she would have been a lot. She's a lot more nice than I would have been. I'll tell you that right now. But I guess you could always argue that there's strength in kindness. People, of course, realistically speaking, some people can actually develop emotional problems. I want to distance themselves from certain people, and of course, would have a hard time opening it up and whatnot. I mean, of course, that's obviously not what the movie's going for. And when you think about it, yeah, I mean, there's certain things that I mean, yeah, they could have had that there, but when you think about it, the film only takes place within a few days. So, um, yeah, you can't. There's certain themes they will not be able to work to let up anyway because it's going to take place in a very very short amount of time. I mean, of course, you could do it in a sequel, but eventually did make a sequel. But let's not speak about that at all because honestly, it's definitely one of the absolute worst films I've ever seen. So yeah, the less we speak about that, the better. I mean, granted, no, the third installment is an improvement. At least it's more passable coming to that, I guess. And yeah, in the third film, they did try to expand on some ideas. So that's something, I guess. But anyway, just sticking with the first one for this video is that yeah, that's the thing, folks. Unfortunately, there are families like this who would mistreat those who are part of their family for whatever trivial reason. This kind of thing, does happen, unfortunately. Some family members might mistreat you for whatever stupid reason, and you can try to your best to remain kind, of course. And a lot of people would, of course, I guess that tells you how people are. Would take your kindness as a weakness, which seems like a contradiction because just because you're kind doesn't necessarily mean you're weak. Having some sort of restraint from harming people, and even though you may have good reason to defend yourself, but remain kind anyway, that alone does require a lot of strength when you think about it. So that can be definitely be shown in this movie. I know a lot of people might also take this as a will fulfillment kind of a fantasy, going against your bullies who bullied you and just fight back somehow. Some people might just take that as an idea for like a fantasy kind of a thing, but sometimes you do have to stand up for yourself, and sometimes it's just best to walk away. So yeah, that's the kind of thing you can actually take into account with this film, whether it may be intentional, we're trying to say about certain things or not, but there's a lot of things you can actually take away from this film. And it's definitely something that has pretty good, okay, really good storytelling right here, folks. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward in a lot of ways, but sometimes it's better to keep things simple. Sometimes the best ideas are simple, and that's another thing a lot of people don't seem to understand is that a lot of people believe that if a plot idea is simple, it means it's stupid. Not necessarily. Stupid and simple are two separate things. Just because the film itself may have a fairly simplistic premise does not necessarily mean it's stupid. Not necessarily. I mean, yes, could speak for some cases, perhaps, depending on what movie you're talking about, okay. But that's not going to speak for every single movie. Alright, that aside, I have to talk about the special features because, like I said, this is the special edition of this movie. And yes, we have two discs, of course. That's definitely a good thing right there. And also, it's a gallery and storybook. It's kind of like a behind the scenes kind of a thing going on here, folks. So you can kind of get a sense of the production of what they were trying to do here for the movie. So yeah, given some insights of this kind of a thing, it's definitely a nice little treat that they would have for the movie. Especially if you're like a fan of this film, then I would highly suggest getting this version. Another good feature on this, of course, is the digital download. If you want to watch it on your computer or what have you, there's that option there. And there's the DVD and Blu-ray version in which you can actually watch. And of course, there's the high definition quality picture for the Blu-ray version. I mean, of course, the DVD version is also going to look a lot better compared to the VHS copy, of course. But point being, the Blu-ray would be in high definition, of course. Even the digital download would also be in high definition as well, folks. Just so you know, you can see the picture quality is actually quite nice there. So yeah, you have the option. It's like having three options. You can watch on your laptop, your PC, or maybe even though there's a lot of PCs and computers out there, a lot of them would basically will play the DVDs anyway. I mean, some of them will play Blu-rays if you're willing to fork over a nice little dollar, that is. But but point being, you do have that option if you want to watch the digital download if you wish to. But not you don't necessarily have to, but at least you have the option there. Having the option there is definitely nice, of course. So yeah, that's definitely a plus there, folks. So for anyone that wants to get this version. So, but the thing is that this is when you look into it. The thing is that they say this is a Target exclusive, but you can actually buy it online, like I was saying earlier, on eBay or Amazon. That's not to say you can't get it on Target's website because it will be there. I mean, I don't know how often it would change their site when it comes to that kind of a thing, but there's a possibility that you can buy it off their site if you want. But anyway, at least, there's always more than one spot you can pick up a copy of this movie, so at least on the bright side, you do have that option. So, yeah, this movie is definitely something you can have in your Disney collection if you haven't had it already. Or if you're just fine with the standard version, either way, you're still getting a pretty good movie. So, I can't really complain too much, really. So, something's better than nothing, I suppose. But yeah, this is a pretty good version, I guess, folks. So that I can't really complain too much about it because it does have those things I just mentioned. So that's definitely a thing there. So yeah. The thing is that Walt Disney himself wanted to do this for quite some time, and obviously it was not going to be as easy as it seems. Just because they're a film company doesn't necessarily mean that they were going to be able to do whatever they want, however they want, and whatnot. So yeah, it of course took quite some time before they actually got this film into production. So of course it was like more of a, I guess you can think of it as a more of a trial and error kind of a thing. Because the production for this film to actually get to production was not exactly easy per se. So just because you're a well-known company doesn't necessarily mean that you could have to do the things you want right away. Obviously, you have to do things that would help the company out to stay afloat. Of course, you're gonna want to have stuff to actually, make it sure that it's a box office success. Yes, granted, the film eventually became a box office success, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it actually knew that at the time. They had no idea how much of an impact this movie was going to have. As I mentioned before, it was a gamble. By which I mean that goes for any company really, any film director or whatnot. Making these movie was definitely a gamble overall. You're not sure it's going to be a success or what have you. So, of course, it's going to be a lot of stress, a lot of ways to try to cope with that or whatnot. So, yeah, just because you made it big with a few movies doesn't necessarily mean that every single movie that you made is going to be uh, golden. It's not. It doesn't necessarily mean that all your films will be smash hit, even if it's good. There's been bad movies that made a lot of money and some good movies that failed the box office success. So just because you made a great product doesn't necessarily mean it's going to have the attention that it deserves. So, however, at least on the bright side, and for their case, it did pay off. Even though they had no clue at the time how much of a success it would have been. Of course, just like many of the movies they made throughout the years, this film is based upon on a book that was made long before this company ever existed. I can't tell you how faithful it is or not to the source material because I have not read the book itself. I know I've said that for many adaptations already, but I can't really tell you how it is. But I'm just gonna just express the opinion on the movie itself. Let's just talk about the movie itself as a film. So that's basically what I'm gonna do here, folks. So overall, this was definitely a really good film as a whole. I did like the story, and I like the execution of the movie. The premise alone was pretty good, and the execution really helped it to bring it to life. So I can see why a lot of people seem to enjoy this film, and I can see why a lot of people are huge fans of the original Cinderella. So I can definitely say that this is definitely what you call a classic movie. So overall, it works. It definitely works. I guess I had to bring up the music because when it comes to the music, that's definitely something that a lot of people want to talk about when it comes to their princess movies, especially when it comes to their princess movies, because there's lots of singing and whatnot. I guess, like I said, this technically is a musical, I guess, and of course, going to have a lot of music, obviously. The music itself is probably one of the best aspects of the film, and it's definitely going to be something you're going to remember even after you finish watching the movie. The music is well done here, it's well composed, the lyrics are nicely done. So, as far as music is concerned, it's definitely top notch. They've done the one thing they definitely are known for, and it's having music in the princess movies. They've done it really, really well here, folks. So that's definitely a plus. Of course, the music itself does go along with the movie to express certain points of the story and whatnot, and certain themes, of course. So, in regards to the music, it's definitely nicely done. So I can't complain about that at all because it's something that does go with what they were trying to do. Because with the theme, the story, and whatnot. Cinderella doesn't need companions anyway, and you can use that as a way to bring in the music, of course. I definitely can say that this is something that I would recommend, obviously. I can see why a lot of people would want to be this character, and I like this character quite a bit. The music is great, the dialogue is really good, and of course, the animation is really nice. One of the best aspects, again, is of course the animation as well. The animation is top notch, despite the fact that this film was released in the early 1950s. The voiceover acting is actually really nice as well. So the voice acting is nice. And like I said, the dialogue does help, of course. It does help to express the character, of course. One of the most obvious things about the movie, but it does get overlooked quite often, is the dialogue, folks. When you're writing dialogue, it should express the character. It should show that how the character is as a personality. Every character should have their own style of talking, of course. With Cinderella's soft-spoken voice and having dialogue that will come off like the way she would talk is different. That's how the other siblings, okay, technically step siblings, but how the step siblings will talk, or how the wicked stepmother would talk. All these characters have their own method of talking. So you need dialogue to, of course, express that. And that's definitely what happens here. There was a dialogue in terms on how the personalities these would be based upon the personality. So the way they would speak and the way and what they would say is consistent with the personalities, is what I'm saying. So the dialogue here is actually really nicely done. So I know that seems like the most obvious thing you could bring up, folks, when it comes to making movies or whatever. But trust me, folks, that gets overlooked more often than you think. So in regards to dialogue, it's definitely really well written. Dialogue is important. I mean, again, obvious dialogue is important, but again, it gets really overlooked. You need the dialogue to match the characters, how they would speak and whatnot. The voice acting, like I said, it was really matching how they would, of course, speak. Again, when it comes to animation, that's like an obvious thing as well, but again, it does get overlooked. When you're making a type of movie, you do need the voice acting to match the personality. Again, you'd be surprised how often this gets overlooked. So it happens. It sure does. But anyway, this film is definitely has some great animation. It's very smooth, and it's not. It never came off choppy. I mean, you would think that this would have bad animation, considering the fact that this is a much older film. But thankfully, there were some people behind this that had actually a pretty good budget, and actually did a lot of ways to make sure to make the animation comes off fluent. So all the movements come off fairly lifelike. So that's definitely a good thing there. And yes, well, granted, it does have a lot of trademarks of what became known for this type of films, but at the time, you say it was a pretty original at the time because it didn't make all that many princess movies at the time. I mean, eventually it made like a bucket loads afterwards, sure, but it is nice to go back to see where all this started. I mean, 10 started with with the one movie Snow White and Seven Dwarfs, sure, but still. Cinderella trying to come off like a different type of story than compared to some of the others. And it didn't come off too similar or anything. While granted, it was like the whole singing, the animals, and whatnot. Yeah, there's similar elements in it, but still. But I'll give this version of the film an overall rating of a 7.8 out of 10. It's a 7.8 out of 10 for me. So, of course, as usual, thanks for watching, and take care. Until next time, see ya. Oh yeah. I still got some stuff to talk about, that's for sure. But anyway, later.